Good morning, everyone. It's Tuesday, May 12th, just after 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time in the United States. I want to welcome everyone to an open door and to finding truth everywhere. Yes, we are going to find truth this morning, but this is Training Wheels, in which we take a lesson from the Course in Miracles and talk about it and experience it together. I have notes for this morning's lesson, which is lesson 100. My part is essential to God's plan for salvation. And I have notes for it everywhere. Notes, I've got like 4 or 5 different things open in front of me. But before I really deal with any of the little helpful note takings that I have, I wanted to check in with everyone this morning on this lesson because if it hit you the way it hit me, it felt a little complicated for me. And I'd like to share that with you because I have both a purple book and a blue book. And as I've gone back into my blue book, I can look at notes that I took almost 10 years ago, almost 20 years ago, actually, and see that some of the things that this lesson elicited in me are still present in me. My experience with the lesson has certainly deepened and shifted, but I thought I would just bring those up to begin, just in case anyone else had the same responses. So this lesson, my part is essential to God's plan. If the small self hears that my part is essential, it can create a bodily sensation or a mental sensation that says, well, I'm not up for this. My part is essential. That can put some pressure on you, especially when it's to God's plan for salvation. And furthermore, the lesson, if you look down at paragraph 5, it says, we will not let ourselves be sad today. For if we do, we fail to take the part that is essential in God's plan, as well as to our own vision. Sadness is a sign that you would rather play another part instead of what has been assigned to you by God. Well, yesterday, when we gathered, we talked about how we were tired. We were feeling exhaustion. And things were difficult. And we're dealing with difficult situations. And what this lesson in the Blue Book does for me is really remind me how wedded I am to my separate self. Because when I interpret this lesson as a challenge, and I see that I have been sad and I have been tired, I have already failed. So what I'd like to do this morning is to just look at that head on and then talk a little bit about it and then take us into a meditation. So what I want to say about this is that we are troopers on the ground. We have agreed to come in and we have joined together when things have hit the fan And we have agreed to gather together and remember what we are, even when things get difficult, even when the terrain is rough, because we are on the ground. And the terrain does get rough, and we do suffer, but we are the troopers together on the ground. Troopers don't work alone. They work in units. They work as a group, supporting each other, working together with each other. And that is the only way that we can fulfill our part, which is essential. We don't fulfill it alone. We fulfill it together. So if you read this as my part to the small self, you will read it as though you're alone and not together. So I want to emphasize that we are not alone ever at any time, even though, as we have agreed to work at the infantry level, we are on the ground, experiencing everything that happens on the ground. We aren't sitting in some general's chair in some lofty place where we can see the big picture. We really are at ground level. And the other thing I want to say is, I'm going to another book here, trying to figure this out. So the experience of oneness, I said we are one, we are together. And the experience of this oneness together comes from our own separate experience. That's the paradox of being here. We experience the oneness within ourself. So when we are in the body and we're having a bodily experience, as Elizabeth was saying earlier on before we started, finally in the wee hours of the morning, she really settled in and she could feel things relaxing and she felt the oneness. She felt the efforting subside. And that's when things open up and you know what you are. But that experience happens in the apparent oneness, the separation of oneness that we seem to be, not the larger oneness that is the truth that we all are. So the experience of oneness happens within this one. And that's another reason why we are troopers on the ground, is because we are working together even as what appears to be the truth is in direct opposition to what is true. So we are working, going from building to building, clearing out the separation and the anger and the despair, but we're doing it together. And we do it together, knowing that the truth of oneness is really where we actually are, but we experience it in a seemingly separate self. So my part is essential to God's plan for salvation. Each one of us is essential to the whole. And until we realize that in ourselves, the whole cannot be greater than the sum of its parts. I'm going to say that again. Until we realize that in ourselves and we bring that to the whole, then the whole will not be greater than the sum of its parts. So what I wrote today in Training Wheels is it possible to argue with God? And I said we can, but we can't, but the personal mind will do it anyway. It will make itself unhappy in the process of arguing with what is. And knowing only happiness itself, Source wishes us only perfect happiness, even as we argue with it. So I want us to sit today in contemplation and have an experience, because I want us to experience this lesson within our own self. And I'm going to read from a book which some of you might have. It's called Journey Beyond Words. How many of you have heard of this book? Richard, have you heard of Journey Beyond Words? I thought you might have. Anybody else? Okay. This is by
Brent Haskell, right?
Pardon me?
Brent Haskell.
That's right. It's written by Brent Haskell. He's a PhD. And what he did is he went through a course and he grouped the lessons of a course and then did channeled work around the groupings of the lessons. And so lesson 100 talks a lot about happiness. In fact, the next lesson, 101, is God's will for me is perfect happiness. That's what we're going to do next week. And so maybe I'll read from Brent next week as well. But this sentence, we will not let ourselves be sad today. Let me just open this up here. How does that feel for you? I will not let myself be sad today. Richard's laughing. How does that feel for you?
That's what I am.
You're sad?
No, I'm not sad. I'm happy, joyous, and free moment to moment.
All right.
I'm only sad when I choose the ego, the separate self.
Thank you.
Uh,
Thank you. And Sandra, how are you this morning?
I am content. I am happy to be here.
That's beautiful.
When I read that this morning, for me, it means that whatever emotion or feeling that arises, there's nothing wrong with it. But what I do is I encase it. It comes into a place of beingness that is joyful. I was at a funeral yesterday, and this beautiful young woman who I'm like a surrogate mother to was her father. And she was weeping and weeping on me. And I just let the joy of that permeate the situation. The joy of the weeping, how much she cared for this man, and the loss she was feeling is part of the human experience. And she's here to experience that. I'm here to experience that with her. So I bring it into the greater whole of, I call it joy, because joy is I don't know why I differentiate, but joy is this all-inclusive knowingness of everything is good. So, but I do recognize, and I have experienced this as well, that if I express a lot of joy and happiness over everything, it doesn't always go down well. And it can cause absolute irritation in some people. So I don't say it, I just be it.
Thank you. I appreciate your explanation that joy encompasses a lot of different feelings. I really appreciate that. Yeah. Thank you. And Patricia.
Good morning, everyone. Wonderful to see you. Wonderful to be here. I experience sadness all the time. It's there. It's been there. I think it's been there forever. It may be existential, but whatever it is, that's what is. And what I do is I embrace it with kindness. And that is the kindness is, it just softens the feeling. It's in the pit of my stomach. It's always been there. But embracing it with kindness softens it. Thank you.
Softens it. I love that. It softens it. All right. Thank you all. What we're going to do, what this lesson asks us to do, is to sit in silence. And specifically, it says, we will prepare ourselves for this lesson today in our 5-minute practice periods. We're going to do more like a 20-minute meditation. By feeling happiness arise in us according to God's will and ours. We will begin the exercises with the thought today's idea contains, and then realize your part is asked. Your part is to be happy. Only this is asked of you or anyone who wants to take their place among God's messengers. So this meditation today is going to be experiential, and I'm going to read from Journey Beyond Words as we sit in our silence, and just allow the words to infiltrate your being. Let them hit you at ground level. Since I worked on the troopers metaphor, let us sit at ground level where we are exactly and just open to the message and the words themselves. And we'll do this for about 20 minutes, 15, 20 minutes, and we'll see where we are. What happens with the reverberations of the words, the frequency of the words, and just our own allowing, our own willingness to allow. So I'm going to turn my video off and we will begin this meditation. It's a guided meditation, but it's a meditation nonetheless. So your only job here, right in this moment, is to get yourselves comfortable. Let what has arisen so far in your day just arise in your awareness. Whatever energies that has left remaining in your physical being, just become aware of it, because we can't let go of what we're not aware of. So let it rise in your awareness, and then let it soften, as Patricia instructed. Just let it all soften. And begin to notice the breath. Without any effort, just notice it. It happens on its own. There's nothing to do here. There's nothing to prove. There's nowhere to go except right where you are right now. Just as salvation comes from your one self, so does your happiness come from your one self. So does your joy. So does your peace come from your one self. I have spoken often about your experience. I have tried to tell you in words that you are your experience. You are your experience. That is but a form of saying there exists only your one self. We have talked about your invulnerability and the fact that everything in your existence arises not from somewhere outside of you, but always, always from within. What arises is a creative expression of what you are. Your world is a creative expression of what you are. Your world, as you perceive it, is yourself, for there is nothing but yourself, your one self. Let us speak about happiness. God's happiness is unshakable, unchangeable. Nothing can take it from you. Nothing can alter it. Nothing can threaten it. Your happiness comes from your one self. For within oneness, there is only unity. And unity means total harmony, without change, without conflict. Let us try now to imagine what your happiness might be as the one self. We are not talking about learning here or ideas, but rather in going beyond them to the truth of what you are. Beyond your thoughts, beyond your analysis, to your experience, your feelings. Let us try to imagine what the happiness of the one self might be. What does oneness feel like? There's a place within you, in your stillness, where you can find what oneness feels like. And in that oneness, there is nothing out there. It's not possible for anything to be out there. It's not possible for anything to be outside yourself. As you notice, as you feel this oneness, reach for the realization that indeed your experience is one with you. Your experience in this moment is your one self. What else is there? Allow yourself to be this experience and to realize how safe you are in this moment. And in this moment of knowing you're safe, there's perfect harmony. And in this perfect harmony, you are united with everything that is arising now. You are totally safe. There is nothing separate. And you are free, absolutely free. Now try to remember a time in your life when you absolutely knew that something would happen. You knew that something would happen, and it did happen. Every one of you has had such a time. These times of knowing. These are statements about what your spirit is and how your spirit functions. You know, without doubt, without conflict, with certainty, that something was to be, and it was. And now take that feeling of certainty and multiply it 1,000 times. And you will have an idea of the certainty with which God knows your happiness. this certainty of knowing through experience is how we know that we can fulfill our part in God's plan for salvation, which is merely the recognition of our own oneness. You are part of God. You are one with God. Would that you might take 1/1,000,000th of God's certainty about you and apply it to yourself. You are one with God. You are part of God. And that same certainty must exist within you. Try to imagine now that that same certainty is driving you along a pathway to your own joy, to your own peace, and to your own happiness. There is nothing that can prevent the goal of your freedom and your joy. Your imaginings that is not so are truly as nothing. Your imaginings that this is not so are the most minor setback on a pathway that has been made for you and that you do not journey on alone. My part is essential to God's plan because I am part of God, because I am one with God. And the certainty of God is within me. Feel this deep within your being. Feel its truth at the level where you are one with your own true self. And you shall be free. When you're ready, repeat the lesson. My part is essential to God's plan for salvation. Just repeat it quietly in your mind. And let its certainty be felt and experienced within your one self. And when you're ready, very gently when you feel that it's time, come back into this presence now. Feel your body, feel yourself sitting wherever you are, your feet on the floor, aware of the breath, aware of your heart center. Still softening. And if you would like to share, let's do so. But take your time. I thought perhaps I had lost some of you when I talked about us being troopers on the ground. Yeah. It just came to me this morning. Alice, good morning.
Hi, finding that little button. Um, uh, Thank you for the guiding us here today. I I think it's like, God's will, God's plan, God's design. What, thy will be, that will be done, and all the, I think within the lesson where it talks about when we have little thoughts or foolish goals that stand against that. And it was that, I think in the meditation, it is not, when I claim it is not so. Um, that's my, I guess that's resistance, but refusal, um, negating that it's, um, the oneness, that the interconnection about all things, um, my our place, our role, our what is it, accepting that it's essential and vital and irrefutable. um, but I think yesterday and today has brought up for like, oh, this is what resistance feels like, you know, um, here within me. Um, and that if the qualities of God are joy and freedom and beauty and balance and harmony and of God and oneness in all things, then the other stuff that I make up, that it's out of whack, or not to my liking. And I think I struggled with Trooper because it felt too like, I kind of didn't match for like, there's no sacrifice required. Like Trooper or Soldier had too much um military for me. I mean, it was like and six, all that power over success, battlefield, all that. Like I didn't want any. I didn't want to latch onto that. But it was just like, I think about being a peacekeeper or a peacemaker, or I think it's in this lesson. There were messengers, that were, and truly accepting that we're light beings. Um, and I think that's all I have to say.
Yeah. So my part in God's plan is really not to have my own part. It's not to make another plan. My part in God's plan is not to have my own plan. What I meant by that, and I agree with you, Alice, that the word is trooper has a connotation, but what it feels like to me is maybe not troopers, but scouts. Like we're coming out into into this unknown territory, and we are laying the groundwork for peace through our own recognition that we know where we are. And we'd have to do it together as a team. We're always a team. We're never not a team. It's just sometimes it feels that way. And that's when we have our own plan. So we think it's my own plan. Cindy, good morning.
Good morning. There's a number one, my best friend for 16 years with four legs, his name was Trooper. So I have a different connotation. And there is another definition for trooper. A trooper is someone who perseveres, who stands still in the face of adversity. So this conversation is just recognizing, I had always said that I want to be whole and healthy. This is going back 20 years when people asked me what I wanted, and I knew I wanted a life of service. I wanted to be able to be dropped into any a disaster zone anywhere in the world and never lose my energy, to be able to always be, words these days, to always be in the light, never to be drained, never to be burnt out, but always to be connected with a source that allows the light to shine anywhere. And that's what a trooper is.
That's right.
If you pull the militant meanings out of that word, that's what a trooper does. So I say yay to the word trooper.
Thank you. I think that's how I grew up with it as well. I totally understand what Alice is saying. And that's because I grew up in a military family, and my dad would come when he wanted to give you praise. He would say, "You're a real trooper." You know, that's what he would say, because he meant it in the same way that Cindy just described it. And Richard, who's also an Air Force guy, might have his own interpretations. My dad and Richard were both in the Air Force, so there's a certain lingo that we have that we get. What you got, Richard? Good morning.
Morning, everyone. I love us all. Great lesson. I spent 22 years in the Air Force, retired, and so trooper is like you, uh, uh, the definition I think Alice or Cindy said. A trooper is someone who perseveres, and you don't shy away from your responsibilities. So, but to get back to the lesson, I really love these lessons about happiness because so many times we get together as groups, listen to a teacher, and it's all about how suffering we are, what we're suffering from, and what we're suffering away from, and how we're unhappy, and how we want to see the light and be the light. And the fact is, you are the light. Just shut the fuck up and be the light. I mean, that's what I think sometimes when I hear all this complaining. So I love the lessons that go, hey, your role in this play is to be happy all the time. It's only when you're not happy that you have to wonder, why did that go wrong? So I remember when I first started the course with Ken Wapnick, he had a term he used called them bliss ninnies. These were people that walked around smiling all the time, always being bliss, but they didn't have any clue of what they are in truth. They had no idea. They were just what he called them bliss ninnies. And I remember laughing at that because that was in the days when, in the 90s, when you walk into an airport and there were all these people handing out flowers when you got your ticket or as you boarded the airplane. And they didn't really. Ken was saying if you identify as a separate self, you can't be happy in the world. You have to surrender being the separate self. You have to embrace being the self that you are in truth. And then manifest that in the dream, and you'll be happy. But you're never going to be happy if you are not willing to give up the separate self. So many of the disciplines talk about surrender. Surrender basically is giving up on the separate self and going, everything I'm reading, regardless of whether it's Buddhism or A Course in Miracles or Advaita Vedanta, we are so much more than the separate self. Why don't I just accept that? Give up trying to drive the bus, turn the bus over to my higher self, go sit in the back and enjoy the ride. And when I get up every once in a while, I go up on the bus driver's shoulder and I tap the shoulder of my higher self. And I think we should have taken a left turn at that last light instead of going straight through. Just sit back and enjoy the ride and accept everything as it is without judgment, and you'll be happy. That's all I wanted to share. Love us all.
Thank you, Richard. Sandra, and then Patricia.
This was so good for me today. It reminded me of how I have not been a trooper in your sense of the word, how I have not been brave and persevered. And I'm going to share with you how, because I read this morning that joy is my function here. Joy is my function, is what it says in the lesson. And God asks that no sorrow rise up to abate the joy, no fear to disturb his peace. And hearing what you said, Richard, about bliss babies or whatever, I was afraid of being called a bliss baby. I didn't like it when people see, I'm going to correct that. Our function is to radiate the joy and the peace, to feel it and radiate it to others. It isn't just for me. And I want to get in my little cocoon and enjoy my bliss. That's really what the separate self wants to do. And then, when I've been told, don't be so joyful, don't be happy all the time, I want to retreat. I'm not a trooper. But I think a trooper can be in an angel's wings, and that trooper can be going around the world wrapping its wings around people who are sad and giving their joy away all the time. And the joy arises from that by being the trooper. And expressing that feels so spontaneous, and yet I hold back. I hold back. I read something this morning I want to share with you. Joy isn't, it's what Cindy said. Joy isn't about outer events or circumstances. It is the aspect of my divine nature, because joy arises from the presence and the power of the divine that is within me. When I'm open to it, it just flows. I can bring the joy, we can bring the joy to the most difficult circumstances, because it arises from a power that is beyond the little self. And it spills over and it radiates. And it's not just for us in this little group. It's to radiate outward like the rays of the sun. And whether the people know it or not, even if they're in the most difficult situation, even if they're feeling anything but joy, our joy permeates their being. It is an active presence. And I'm certain of it. And yet, to quote, fit in, which is not my role. My role isn't to fit in. My role is to see things differently. Sometimes seeing it is the exact opposite of what it appears to be, with new eyes that we all have. So call me a bliss baby in sarcasm. I don't care, because my function is to bring that joy. And that's it. That's the only function. And I feel like it's an honor we've been given. It's not like a hard task. It's an honor. It's a holy mission. And it can change the whole world. Well, the world doesn't really need to be changed, but it can help alleviate the suffering that is in the dream. It can. Okay. I'll keep trying to be a trooper, Amy. I'll remember your dad's word. Be a trooper. That kind of trooper, but with angel's wings.
Mm, thank you. Thank you. Patricia, and then Richard, and then we'll probably have to close it out because we're going to meet again in less than an hour. So Patricia and Richard.
Thank you. I'll try to make this quick because I see the time. Um, what happened in my experience of this meditation was that I sort of had this Kundalini rush in my heart center. And so I realized that when my heart is open, that's God.
Mm,
That's God to me. And so that I go out into the world with kindness and gentleness and softness. So how's that for quick and right to the point?
it's right to the point, and it's an experience that is cellular. And
Yeah.
that's partly why it's so good to do this together, because we remember this experience.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Richard.
I just
Close us out.
wanted to add that although I love these meetings and I'm able to express myself in these meetings in a way that most people don't see me. One of the things, having spent 22 years in the military, I apparently have a persona or an image when I meet people that say, don't fuck with this guy, he's going to judge the hell out of you. So they aren't really, they don't find me very, maybe like you see me as being love all the time. And no, apparently that's how I'm perceived by others who are not on this path. So I have to work constantly, and most of the time I don't do this. I fall into Richard and his personality when I'm out among people I don't know. And I have to really focus on be the love, be happy, be full of joy, because my demeanor is in that way normally. So I just wanted to say that I love us all, and thanks for letting me be happy, joyful, joyous, and free in our meetings. I love it.
Wow, Richard, you just made my morning. I really appreciate what you said. That was just lovely. Really quickly, I know we're over, but if you want to in the next meeting or at any point, share with me how that meditation was for you. I would appreciate it. You can share it with Cindy or whatever, but I'd love to know how that was received and how that worked for you. So that's it.
In the meantime, come on back in 54 minutes.
Okay.
We have a new facilitator.
All right.
Jerry's going to
Love
lead
us.
today.
Oh, yay. Okay.
Let's stop the recording.
All right.